entire life to say those things. Like, let's say you really thought this one person was really important to you, but you never expressed it, and you kind of like just took them for granted and didn't show them how much you cared about them. So they just didn't know that they were really important to you. And then once you're like near the end of your life, or going to their, you don't, either you can't tell them because they're not there, or they are there and you finally say it to them and they like finally understand how you felt about them. And it would have kind of been unimportant because you're gonna be gone anyways, and so it wouldn't really matter to the person anymore. Like it would be important to them how you felt about them, but it wouldn't be as important as it would be if you were still alive.
Or worse yet, you tell them how you feel about them, and they had their AirPods in. They just didn't hear it. There's a lot in what you just said. There's a lot there. Especially you'll notice for example that we take for granted that the person is always going to be there, or we're just embarrassed to tell people what we think about them and how we feel about them, or we just kind of like assume they don't care, or we assume that they probably already know. They probably already know. And all kinds of assumptions. And have you ever had someone just say something really kind to you out of nowhere? And if you have, you can know that it's pretty neat. It's a surprise thing. And what you're also probably going to find is that when you say something kind to somebody, or maybe if someone's ever done that to you, they said something particularly kind to you, maybe it came to you at a time when you really could have used it too. It's like the strange thing is like you're feeling terribly about yourself one day, and all of a sudden someone says something nice, and you're like, oh wow, okay, and that brightens up your day. I remember, this is a number of years ago, I got home and I was just having a really bad day, which is rare for me to have a really bad day, but I was having one this day. And I had this neighbor. She used to always say hello, goodbye, very, very chipper and everything. I got home and she said hi. I said, oh, hi, how are you? And I try very hard also that when I'm having a bad day not to dump it on other people, because it's not their fault that you're having a bad day. This is like, for example, I was talking in my classes about Christmas. I hate Christmas. Christmas is my least favorite day of the year. Yeah, and then students ask like, well, when I saw somebody look up, then why do you have Christmas lights? How many of you guys like Christmas? That's why I have Christmas stuff up. I'm not going to shit on Christmas just because I don't like it. And just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you don't like it. In fact, I hope that you love Christmas. I hope that you look forward to December 25th every year. And then I hope that the only thing better than December 25th is December 26th. But you know what beats December 26th? December 27th. In other words, I hope you have as many of those days that you look forward to as possible in a year. I don't want to take a dump on your favorite days just because just because I don't like it. And so when I was walking in, she said hello to me. I said, hi, how are you? So I went inside, and I don't know, like an hour and a half, maybe like an hour later, knock on my door, and I'm like, dude, who the hell would just show up at my house without texting first? What kind of an animal just shows up, And I assume it must be someone selling something, whatever, so I don't answer it. And then knocks again, whatever, and then I just heard my name. I'm like, well, this person knows me. But then again, so does the FBI, so maybe I shouldn't be answering. I answer anyway, and it's my neighbor, and she has a cake. And she gives me a cake, and I go, what the hell? I literally said, what the hell? For some reason, the mask fell for a second. And she just said, it looks like you're having a bad day. And so I saw and who doesn't like cake, so I made you a cake. So I said, yeah, thanks. And I went inside and I put it on my table, and I sat there and I just kind of stared at this cake. And I was just like, who the hell would just make you a cake? And then I asked myself in a different tone, I don't know, who the hell would just make you a cake? That is pretty neat, And so I like cake. That's why I lie about my birthday when it is. Get cake as many times a year as possible. And so I cut off a slice of cake, and I was eating it. I said, this is some good cake. And I thought to myself, you know, I actually have a friend who I knew at the time. I said, I knew that she was having a bad day too. You know what I do?
Give her a slice.
Yeah, I wrapped up the cake, and I went to her house. Of course, I texted first. I didn't just show up like some sort of an animal. And I just said, come on, I've got something for you. So she's like, well, what is it? So she came out. She was just having a bad day, though. She was having a bad, like, life, maybe? I don't know. She's having a bad couple of weeks. So I showed up and I gave her the cake, and she opened it up. She's like, you made me a cake. She's like, seriously, Stephen, you ate a slice of it? Because it's very much something I would do. I'd make you a cake and go, well, maybe they won't notice if I eat one slice out of it. And so I delivered her the cake, and I told her, no, this is for my neighbor, and I told her the story. And she was just like, so you brought me a cake that someone made for you? I said, yes. Isn't that cool? So I said, eat some. So she took a slice out of it, and then she's like, and when I went to leave, she's like, I know what to do with this cake. I go, eat the whole thing with one glass of milk. And she said, no, actually I know someone a few doors down from me who's having a bad day. I'm going to take them the rest of the cake. I have no idea after that how many people got slices of this cake. But yeah, I thought about that afterwards, but that's a pretty neat thing. It's one of those things that I'd like to, I'd like to replicate in some way, but it's not the kind of thing that you can replicate. It has to happen at a specific day, on a specific time, with specific people, at specific circumstances. You know? And, you know, a lot of life is like that, especially the most memorable parts of it. And so, the reason I said it was interesting was because some of you guys caught up on that first part right there, the get on, get out. So you understand there's an argument going on here. This is actually in the middle of a statement. And then he says, last words are for fools who haven't said enough. These were actually his last words of life. He was dying. Yeah, he's a political philosopher. And he had all this, you know, the Communist Manifesto, the original Communist, that's him. He wrote the Communist Manifesto. He co-wrote it. And he had his disciples around, and they all had like notepads, and one of them was like, you know, what are your last words? Because they knew he was going to die, and they wanted him to come up with something brilliant. And so they're like, what are your last words? Like, give us something that we can go to people and say, this is what he said on his deathbed. And he very angrily, he like swung at the person with his arm and told him exactly this. Go on, get out of here. He's like, get out of here. Last words are for fools who didn't say enough. Actually, this is like almost a little translation. The sentiment of it is, last words are for fools who didn't say enough while they were alive. So when you're on your deathbed, you try to blurt out the last of everything. It's just like, going back to what you're saying, if you're ever going through a breakup, and you know this might be the last time you ever talk to this person, you start telling them all of this, especially if it's one of your first breakups, you tell them all of the things you've always wanted to tell them, whether it's good or whether it's bad. You know, like, 3 months ago, you took the last ketchup packet and that hurt my feelings. You know? But then, last month we made toast or whatever, and you gave me the end piece, and that's my favorite piece, and I'll always love you for that. We'll still be friends, right? Whatever the best or the worst is. You don't want to get to that point. Because if you say all the nice things, then maybe you'll never get to the point of that breakup. Or better yet, if you say all those bad, I don't want to say what bad things, but all those things that are important to you. Like if someone takes the last ketchup packet, and it bothers you a lot, you should probably tell them, hey, it bothers me that you took the last ketchup packet. Why? I don't know. And it just does for some reason. And that can be bothersome because maybe you're the kind of person who likes to find solutions. Well, how can I solve this? Well, we can get you a thing of ketchup. No. Okay, well, I wonder what you want then. Like, I remember something like that happened to me one time. I was with somebody and I had it's the last ketchup pack. And I didn't realize, and the person asked me, is there any more ketchup? I was like, shit, I just took the last of it. And I said, no. And they're, oh, that's okay. And I said, oh. I felt terrible about it. And so I said, I need to get something out of my car. So I'll be right back. She's like, okay. I ran onto my car, and I drove down the street to the 7-Eleven and bought a bottle of ketchup, and came back. And she was like, where'd you go? I said, I was going to get you a bottle of ketchup. And she's like, why? Because you wanted some ketchup. And I took the last one, I felt terrible about it. That's different from, do you want me to go get you a bottle of ketchup? Do they want you to go get them a bottle of ketchup?
Probably not.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Asterisk. I'm not going to say it. What's up, Robert? Oh, you're a good man. If you guys are looking for ways to bribe Scanlon, this man just showed you how to do this. You're a good man, Robert. I don't care what Damien says. You're a good man. It's kind of like, you know, do you want me to wash the dishes? Do they want you to wash the dishes?
Yes.
Are they going to say it?
No.
No, it's fine.
See you after school.
I'll be your brother. Good man. They want you to go get them ketchup. No. No. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, I'll go get ketchup. No! Not if I have to guilt you into it. You shouldn't have to be guilted into it. If you have to ask that question, would you like this? If you have to ask, then just do it, maybe. And maybe you would never get to that last day of having to explain how you feel because you've explained it all along. And that's one of those things about being a writer, is that if you're a writer and somebody wants to know, what was your life like, or how do you feel? You can say, look on the shelf. It's all over there. Whatever I wrote, that's what I felt. That's how I thought. You know, what were you going through in your life? What were you thinking about? Here's a thumb drive. Open up the files and you can read them. Because a writer is going to tell you all along. As a writer, as a philosopher and an economist, the guy wrote lots of books. I mean, really lots of books. That if you want to know what his last words were, his last words are just going to be the last thing that you read from him. You know? One of those things that I didn't really think of it too much this way, but one of my students was saying, "Man, so you like upload almost every video from every class that you talk in?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "And you've done like how many?" There are a couple of these quotes I've done them 2 years in a row. There are a couple I've done 3 years in a row. They're pretty rare though. And he said he noticed that you can go through like the way I talked about it 3 years ago to last year. Into this year, he says, and they're all very different. Like, you don't even talk about the same things. And I go, no, and he goes, that's pretty cool, because if you were to die, we could always go back and see what you thought. I was like, geez, I hadn't thought of it this way. It's like he had a plan, you know? Like he had it in mind. So if you were to die, we'd already have everything we need from you. So you don't really need to be here. But what if I change? Nobody changes. We just become more like ourselves. So he's shooing this person out, and it's because he doesn't want like his last words to be recorded, because the last words maybe are going to be pretty, I don't know, maybe bloated or inflated, if that's the word, because you're under a lot of pressure. You know, you got 20 seconds to live. Give me your last words. Say something brilliant. Go. His last words were, And it's great because he didn't want his last words to be recorded, and yet that's probably what makes these some of the greatest last words ever spoken. Last words are for fools who didn't say enough while they were alive. Brilliant, thanks teacher. No, don't write that! And he dies. No. Be interesting to think about. If you were to die today, what would you want your last words to be? Would it even matter? Or better yet, if you were to die right now, boom, asteroid hits us, what would your last words have been?
Knuckle sandwich.
Knuckle sandwich, goddamn something. That's all I heard. I don't know, she said goddamn something. She will be missed. She said will be missed. I don't know. You know, because it's amazing what you'll be remembered by. I've told you about how I'm remembered by many of my old students. I walk around and like, of all the things I've said, dude, all the things I've said, everything, man, all the bullshit nods I've gotten from people, like, yeah, that makes sense. I walked through Walmart now. I told you the joke I told my students years ago? What's better than winning a gold medal at the Special Olympics? Ice cream! No bullshit. About a month ago, I was walking through Walmart and I heard, ice cream, ice cream! That was like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. No joke. About a year ago, I was driving home from the gym, and I was sitting on National City Boulevard before you go towards get onto the freeway, and I'm just at a stop sign, and I hear, ice cream, ice cream! And I look over, and it's this kid in that class, I said other stuff, man. You know, life is suffering. Like, whatever, man. Ice cream. But I guess there are. I mean, think about if I had a funeral and they were all there. They're just like, ice cream. But I guess there are worse things to be remembered by. You know, I mean, I guess that would just be kind of like he made us laugh. I mean, he offended some people in the process. Check some boxes on the sheet of who have offended today, but he made us laugh in the process. I guess there are worse things to be remembered by. There are better things to be remembered by. I mean, there's a whole channel full of them, but whatever. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?